This is FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. Get ready for the latest in film news, TV show news, and theatrical reviews. FilmBook's podcast starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. My name is Chris Banks. If you're tuning in to FilmBookCast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is discuss the latest film and TV show news, as well as review an in-theater film. You can find more FilmBookCast on film-book.com by using the search term FilmBookCast. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. with FilmBookCast in the subject line. Let's jump right into it this week. This week in movie trailers, they finally released a full-length Many Saints of Newark trailer. It gives us a fuller sense of this epic Sopranos story to come. I love seeing Ray Liotta in a Sopranos context. How did he not make it into the series? I cannot wait for this film. Check out the second trailer. It's much longer. And it gives you a way better sense of how epic this just the scenery is. Can't wait for this one from David Chase. Another film trailer that came out this week, Guillermo del Toro unveiled his first trailer for his new movie Nightmare Alley. It stars Bradley Cooper among many others, and wait till you see this trailer. It's glitzy, it's old school, it's flashy, noir, it looks beautiful. Check out the trailer for Nightmare Alley. Another film trailer that debuted this week is one that touches my heart. It's close to my heart. Do you remember Around the World in 80 Days? They're remaking it, and it's not the kind of comedic, childlike movie that the 2004 one was with Jackie Chan and Steve Coogan and Arnold Schwarzenegger. This Around the World in 80 Days is much more adult-seeming, right? It's very dramatic instead of comedic. It stars David Tennant. Check out the new trailer for the new adaptation of Around the World in 80 Days. Alright, let's switch up gears and head on over to some movie news. This week in movie news, the Lost Boys movie is in the works at Warner Brothers, after the pilot was not moving forward at CW. Interesting movie news is the revival of the 1987 cult classic continues. After the CW opted not to go forward with Rob Thomas's pilot, Warner Brothers is prepping a new take with screenwriter Randy McKinnon and Jonathan Entwistle directing. The original movie, which was billed as a comedy horror, grossed over $32 million in domestic box office. It follows two brothers who, after moving into a new town, discover that it's occupied by vampires. We'll keep an eye out for some more news as The Lost Boys moves to Warner Brothers as a feature film. Moving on with movie news, No Time to Die tickets go on sale. It's the first ever James Bond to be shot in IMAX, 15 and 70 millimeters, and it's the first ever to play in 3D. After 18 months of delay due to the pandemic, tickets are finally available for MGM's No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's swan song as M16 agent with a license to kill. It opens October 8th in the United States and September 30th in the UK. The Cary Fukunaga directed movie will feature 40 extra minutes of expanded IMAX aspect ratio footage shot with the large format exhibitor's 15/70 millimeters film cameras. It's the first ever Bond to be shot with an IMAX 15/70 film camera. It's also the first James Bond to be shown in 3D and Real D, making it the first film in the franchise's 59-year history to be released in that format. In addition, No Time to Die will be booked in the jaw-dropping Screen X 4DX formats. Screen X is the 270-degree exhibition format, will expand specially selected sequences of the Bond pic into left and right side of the walls of the auditorium, surrounding audiences with extended imagery which naturally fills their perceptual vision. Bond's ride in his silver Aston Martin is so much better in the D-Box, the motion seat format which is available at select theaters. Very exciting news about this No Time to Die James Bond film, as the MGM has gone all out to try and make this James Bond the first immersive James Bond experience for us as audience. Very cool. The last bit of movie news we'll check out this week is a Bonnie and Clyde update film called Johnny and Clyde. Fresh off her show-stopping VMA appearance, Megan Fox has been set to star with Tyson Ritter in the new feature thriller Johnny and Clyde. The film will be produced by Chad A. Verdi, and it's a new take on the famous Bonnie and Clyde story. The movie will follow two serial killers who are madly in love and on an endless crime spree. The movie is currently in production in Rhode Island. This week in TV news, Peacock's Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot rounds out its cast. Adrian Holmes and Cassandra Freeman will play Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian in the dramatic reframing of Will Smith's 1999 sitcom. Peacock's dramatic spin-off of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air has found its Banks family. The NBC Universal streaming platform has filled out its regular cast of Bel-Air. Cooper and Will Smith are executive producing. Adrian Holmes, Cassandra Freeman will play Will's Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian. Ollie Skolaton, Coco Jones, Akira Akbar will play Banks' kids. Carlton, Hillary, and Ashley. Jimmy Akabola will play the Banks family butler, Jeffrey. Jordan L. Jones plays Will's friend Jazz, and Samoy Joe Jones will play Lisa, Will's love interest. Peacock picked up Bel-Air with a 2-season order in July of 2020. The series has changed showrunners twice since then, though, with TJ Brady and Rashid Newson taking over the project. Continuing with TV news, Matthew Fox and Joanne Froggatt will headline Peacock's limited series The Last Light. Lost alum Matthew Fox is set to star alongside Joanne Froggatt of Downton Abbey in Peacock's Last Light, a series adaptation based on Alex Scarro's best-selling apocalyptic thriller novel. Fox will also executive produce the series from MGM International TV Productions in association with Nordic Entertainment Group's Viaplay. Production will begin soon, and the 5-episode limited series is based on Scarro's Last Light. The book tells a story of a family fighting to survive in a world that has been suddenly thrown into chaos. Fox will play Andy Nielsen, an expat living in London, who was once the world's leading petrochemical engineers, but his drive and ambition sometimes have been to the detriment of his own family. The story's unfolding crisis will force Andy to reassess his priorities, both with his family and in work. The only way he'll be able to restore his family is by setting the world right, and he might be the only one with the knowledge and the ability to do so. Last Light marks Fox's first return to TV since he played Jack Shephard in all 6 seasons of ABC's Lost. The last bit of TV news we'll cover this week is some sad news for American Horror Story fans, as Season 10 may be Sarah Paulson's last season. She implied that the currently airing 10th season, which she plays 2 roles in, may be her last. She admitted that for the first time in about 3 years, she doesn't know whether she will be back on the show. She does admit that it will probably be her last season of American Horror Story. I don't know, it's the first time in about 3 years where I don't know. I think this is my last season of Horror Story, probably. I mean, I don't know. Every time he comes with me with some wackadoodle character, I tend to be like, yes, let's do it. So I don't know. This is the first time. So we'll see. Paulson's tenure on American Horror Story may end, but there's no reason to believe she'll stay far away from Murphy's orbit. She's been working with the showrunner since 2004 when she appeared on an episode of his plastic surgery melodrama Nip Tuck. Since American Horror Story, Paulson and Murphy have worked together on including Feud, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest prequel series Ratchet, The People vs. O.J. So some sad news for American Horror Story fans is Sarah Paulson may be out after this season. This week in TV trailers, Netflix debuted the Season 3 trailer of You. So they now have a child, but things are not the way it seems. I can't wait for this upcoming season. It looks mysterious, violent. I love how they're living together now, and there's a baby involved. So how is this going to happen? Check out the Season 3 trailer for You. It comes out on Netflix in a couple weeks. Some more TV trailers from this week comes from Hulu, and it's Dopesick. It comes out October 13th. It's a stacked cast. Michael Keaton, Rosario Dawson, Will Poulter, Michael Stolberg. So many people are in this trailer. You get a sense of what this doctor in Middle America, what he went through when he was told that, he can prescribe this medication and less than 1% of the patients will become addicted. We all know what happened with OxyContin, and check out the trailer for Dopesick. I can't wait for this series. It comes out on Hulu October 13th. The last TV trailer we'll check out this week comes from Netflix, and it's ahead of its highly anticipated return. It dropped the final trailer for Sex Education. It gives us a little preview of a conversation between Otis and Maeve about his heartfelt voicemail confession which got secretly erased during last season's finale. It also highlights Gene's struggles with pregnancy and Otis's new relationship with Ruby. Check out the last trailer for Sex Education. It just debuted on Netflix today. All right. For this week's movie review, we're checking out Cry Macho, directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Clint Eastwood and Dwight Yoakam. It's about a one-time rodeo star and washed-up horse breeder. In 1978, he takes a job for an ex-boss to bring the man's young son home and away from his alcoholic mom. Crossing rural Mexico on their way back to Texas, the unlikely pair faces an unexpectedly challenging journey, during which the world-weary horseman may find his own sense of redemption through teaching the boy what it means to be a good man. Cry Macho just came out in theaters. It's also on HBO Max. It's written by Nick Schneck and N. Richard Nash. Dwight Yoakam, Edward Minne plays Rafa. He's the young boy. Fernanda Orejola plays Leta, which is the boy's mother. Howard picks Mike to once again hop on the horse for him and go grab his son, who is really being abused by his mother and being allowed to be abused by his mother. And Clint Eastwood plays someone who has had a long work history with Howard, and he goes down to Mexico to grab his son for him. And honestly, it's really cool to see a Clint Eastwood movie again. It feels like a Clint Eastwood movie. It makes you feel cool. He's the American movie star. And it's a special story, designed to really bring in all of our generations that were within the political conversation right now in this country. You have Clint Eastwood, who is the American movie star, Raphael, who is the young Mexican immigrant, and Howard, who is in the middle of all this. And it's just a beautiful story, because you get to see the differences within the culture, the similarities within the culture, the old person needing the younger person needing the older person. It's really a circle of life story, and it's really beautiful. You'll see when you see the movie what happens, the way that Mike and Rafi bump heads. But Mike is great with Raphael. Raphael's used to being abused, so he's really defensive and he's in a fear-based mindset. So any microaggression or micro slight, he will, run off and stuff. But Mike does a great job empowering Raphael. He asks him questions. And when you ask a child questions, it gives that child power and allowing the child to see that the child is in control of answering the questions. And it just empowers a child in a different way than the punitive style parenting, and Mike's come to find out that Mike himself has a really profound story about how he's ended up here doing jobs for Howard, and how he had a wife and a child at one time. And you'll have to watch the movie to get a better sense of the story. I don't want to give away the storyline in the review, but it's really beautiful that we see this instant bond being created between a newer generation and an older generation. I personally love Mexican culture. I love North American history. So when Raphael tells Mike to go grab some new clothes, and he comes out the store looking more like a Mexican gringo and not an American gringo, I relate to that really, really, really powerfully, because just in my own life, I've had the immense pleasure of being deeply embedded within other North American, South American, Mexican cultures, and I just relate to those scenes really, really powerfully, and it's really heartwarming. The Mike and Raphael get to know one another. They build trust. And I think that what makes the movie not as good as it can be is the fact that, Clint Eastwood is 90, I think. I'm not sure how old he is, but he's very old. It's very hollow. The performances is very hollow. There's not much there anymore. And it's kind of heartbreaking for a lover of American cinema like me to see that, I like that this is a Clint Eastwood movie, but if this was a different kind of actor, then the movie may have been better, because Clint just can't emote as he once was able to do. And even in a movie like $1 Million Baby, where he's really good, he's not as good in this movie. And I don't think it's his fault. I think it's just his age. I really do think it's just his age. He has great lines, though. The script is really good. He's talking to Raphael. Mike is talking to Raphael, and he's talking about when we get up to America and you go to Texas, they really don't like that macho stuff. That macho stuff, nobody likes that stuff. And it's just a great line, because you see that storyline, that macho-ness still at play in our society, in our culture. And the movie's based in 1978. So it really shows us in 2021 how little we've learned and grown as a people. Raphael's story really sticks with you. He really sticks with me. Because he's on the street because all the trouble happens at home. So if any kid can relate to that in a way, I can. And there's just great scenes between him and Raphael and Mike. Raphael wants to drink tequila and Mike doesn't let him. We just see the movie really brings in a really good light, certain cultural differences and how love bridges them all. Trust bridges all differences. Honesty and trust helps build those bridges between people. And I think the film really does do a great job showing us that you have to empower children. You have to empower other people. You can't, the beauty of America is the melting pot. And we have to remember that. And Cry Macho reminds me of just how beautiful America is. America today, even. And I just really wish that we got Clint to do this 20 years ago, because it would have been more powerful. But it wouldn't have been relevant. It's really relevant. This movie is extremely relevant for the culture right now. And I hope more people see it. I hope it does really well. I hope a lot of people see this movie. And I hope you like it as much as I did. Thanks so much for checking us out this week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of FilmBookCast. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Just search for Chris Banks or FilmBookCast. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm at CBanksy. That's S-E-E Banksy. I'm also on Instagram at @TheChrisBanks. If you listen to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening on our YouTube channel, FilmBook Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. It really helps other people discover our podcast. Please also become one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/filmbook. Your support helps us create more engaging content. You'll find our Patreon link below in the description. If you want to tweet about this podcast, just use the hashtag FilmBookCast. Tune in next week for the next episode of the FilmBookCast. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you then.